The Timberwolves trail the Spurs 2-1 through 3 games before a pivotal game 4 tonight. Today we go over how and what a game 4 win looks like for the Timberwolves and a series win today on the Nordic Wolf Podcast. Welcome into the Nordic Wolf Podcast. I am your host, Eric Darris. We are here on Sunday, May 10th. It is Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all mothers out there, including my own. We are here today to talk some basketball. So, as of now, last week we did our series preview. The Timberwolves were able to come out with a Game 1 win. Wouldn't call it convincing. The Spurs didn't play particularly well, and we saw in Game 2 the Spurs rebounded with what Chris Finch said is a punking, and that's really what it was. The Spurs won by 38 points. Now, Game 3, I saw a lot more that I liked out of Game 3, but unfortunately, Wemby was the problem. And we talked about in our preview how there's a Wemby dilemma that you're kind of dealing with when you play the Spurs. And for the most part, thus far, the Wolves have really been unable to solve it. And I mean, what we saw in Game 3, I don't think there is really a whole lot of solving to be done in that situation. Wemby was just incredible. His box score of 39 points, 15 rebounds, 5 blocks is something that has only been done by 3 other players, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now, they all did it a few times. However, none of them were doing that at 22 years old. And what we are seeing from Wemby is truly transcendent. He is unbelievable. And going into my preview, I think I even underrated what he could be at 22 years old. We've seen in the past these young players struggle in their early playoff success. We saw it with Anthony Edwards. We've seen it with Luka Doncic. We've seen it with LeBron James. We saw it with the Thunder. Their first year in the playoffs, they got knocked out by the Dallas Mavericks. But the Spurs team feels a little bit different right now. And they have just been able to give every answer that the Timberwolves have tried to solve. They don't have the answers, and it's all due to Wemby because the other guys didn't play particularly well in Game 3, and I thought the Wolves actually found a formula to win the game. So let's jump into Game 3, talk about outside of Wemby, because this is not a Spurs podcast, so I don't need to go into how great Wemby is, even though I could talk about that for this whole time, because again, unbelievable. Sometimes you just can't do anything about it. But let's talk about what the Wolves did well, maybe what's potentially a problem for the Wolves, what they can use into Game 4, and really the series in general. So let's start with some of the game highlights. So the Timberwolves' first thing that jumps out, they shot 14 more shots than the San Antonio Spurs. And of those 15 rebounds that Wemby got, only one was an offensive rebound. So the Wolves were able to create plenty of second chance opportunities. Now, they didn't necessarily cash in on all those second chance opportunities. In fact, they were beaten quite badly, and especially in the paint, 46-38. Now, again, a lot of that is the Wemby dynamic, and the Wolves are still terrified to try and go into the paint after the 12 block Game 1, despite saying he's going to have to block everything. It seems like he is able to do that. So the Wolves have had to recalibrate. Now, I thought what they didn't do in Game 2 was come up with an offensive plan that gave you open shots. They took a lot of ISO on the perimeter, 3-point low percentage shots, and they got their butts whooped. Now, in Game 3, we saw a lot of driving kicks, and then that would spark ball movement, a lot of open corner threes was what I saw. I think I saw a stat they had 21 open threes in the corner. So ideally, you need to increase the percent of what they hit in those open corner threes by about, I think they hit about 25%. They need to hit like 40. That right there takes away your margin of the loss. Now, obviously, butterfly effect, that doesn't mean the Spurs don't try and score more, doesn't mean you automatically win, but you're scoring more points because right now their easy points are taken away from them. The easiest points you get, the highest percentage points you get are points in the paint, and their percentage is down like 15% in there. So you need to find points elsewhere. And those open corner threes or open, after they pass it to the corner, they make an extra pass, make an extra couple of passes to get somebody open with a good look. They need to cash in on those at a higher clip than they normally do. And part of that problem for the Wolves right now is they're missing their best volume 3-point shooter, Dante. He's not coming back. Anthony Edwards is technically their best volume shooter, but I'm counting more the role players. Ant's still playing, but Ant is also not healthy. So he's not shooting at a percentage that ideally we would like. So then it leaves Jaden, Julius, Iodasumu, Naz Reid. Those are kind of your four options of those kickout guys. Doesn't seem like Mike Conley is going to play really much. He started the game 3, played 4 minutes and didn't see another minute. His 4 minutes were abysmal, as we saw as game 1 got off to a rough start, scoring 1 point in the first 6 minutes. So we don't have a lot of options. Terrence Shannon Jr., I can't stand when we put him in the corner because that's the worst part of his game. He is not a corner 3-point shooter. You need the ball in his hands. So that's kind of driving me crazy this last couple of games is Ant has kind of gotten back into form and taken over the ball control. Terrence Shannon Jr. seems to be relegated into a lesser role, so you can't depend on him to be a corner 3-point shooter, at least at this stage of his career. So again, you're dealing with Julius, Jaden, Iodasumu, Naz Reid. And at this point, you only have 7 guys that seem to be dependable on the ball right now that can shoot those corner threes. Bones Highland's out of the rotation after game 3. He's been playing terrible in the series, so I don't see him getting back into the rotation here. So these guys need to hit at a high clip. Now, Naz Reid was 4 for 8 from 3 in game 3. For the first time, really all playoffs and really since before the All-Star break, Naz, I thought, looked relatively healthy. Now he still had his shoulder wrapped up, and I'm sure he's still not feeling it, but it was good to see him get into rhythm. Iodasumu had a really bad first half to the game. But again, second half started to get that burst. He was 3 for 8 from 3, which that's where you need him to be, roughly 3 or 4 of 8 going in. That is a good, promising sign. So let's go into Jaden. Jaden's shooting sub 20% from 3-point range this whole playoffs run. And it is really hard for me to really be too critical of Jaden McDaniels because Jaden has been arguably the MVP of the Wolves in this playoff run. He was certainly the MVP of the game 6 clinching game against Denver. And he kind of lit the fire under the team, it felt like, in that whole Denver series. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm taking anything away from Jaden McDaniels, but if the Wolves want any chance of winning this series, you can't have a guy that shot 40% from 3 in the regular season shooting sub 20. You just can't. And right now, Jaden has been abysmal from 3. He just doesn't seem to have any confidence with his 3-point shot, and that needs to improve and improve right away starting tonight. Because again, the mid-range is tricky because you're not being able to get to these high percentage areas with Wemby shot blocking ability. So you're taking these contested 16 to 18 footers a lot to get away from Wemby. Well, those are, low percentage mid-range shots for most guys. Now, Jaden's a pretty good mid-range shooter, but you just need to score those 3-point shots because you're not getting the easy buckets that you would get against a Denver. And then Julius Randle. I thought game 3 was abysmal for Julius. Now, when he was on the court, the team did perform better. So I don't want to make it sound like everything was bad. But my God, he was terrible on defense. And then his offense was just abysmal. I mean, let's look at what his stats were. So Julius Randle, let's have some fun with this. So Julius shot 3 for 12 from the field for 12 points. He was 6 of 6 from the free throw line, which the whole team in general shot 18 for 21 in the free throw line. Let's see that again. But 3 for 12, 0 for 3 from 3. He had 6 rebounds. Anthony Edwards had 14 rebounds with 2 bad knees. And then Jaden, Julius, Rudy all gave us 7, 6, and 7. 2 6'9" guys and a 7'3" guy had a combined 20 rebounds. Anthony Edwards, who's 6'2", basically had 14 rebounds. That effort there just isn't good enough. And Julius needs to be our number 2 option. And really, this whole playoff run, Julius has had some okay games. There hasn't been any dominant Julius games where you say, man, he put his stamp on this game. And I get it. This matchup is tough for him because he likes to drive and he likes to play bully ball and he likes to take the, 12-foot mid-rangers. And with Wemby right there, that's really hard for him to get his shot. And he's not a good 3-point shooter at this point. He's low volume. I mean, he's shooting like 30% this year. But we need to get him back to like 35. And I have trouble seeing that happen. And the hard part is I really don't see much of a path for the Wolves winning this series without better games from Jaden McDaniels and Julius Randle, specifically on the offensive end for Jaden. And for Julius, he needs to be better defensively and offensively because we saw Rudy Gobert, the team's offense runs so much smoother right now without Rudy on the court against Wemby because you can space Wemby out. When Rudy's on the court, Wemby just kind of roams the paint, and we don't have an answer to get easy buckets. With the 5 out, we had plenty of drives that we were able to capitalize on because Wemby wasn't able to get to that shot block in time. So if Rudy's not on the court a lot, you need to depend on Julius to play defense on Wemby, which in the regular season, I said last week, I really liked that matchup because I saw it in the regular season. I saw it work. I saw it work with Aaron Gordon. I saw it work with Julius in earlier matchups. And I'm just not seeing it right now. I mean, we did see the one play where Julius, really played some defensive, kind of stood up defensively on Steph Castle. But then he got smoked by Wemby on a screen. And I know some fans wanted that to be an illegal screen. That's just Julius kind of running into a guy. I mean, Wemby was not moving. That was a good screen. So overall, those two guys need to be better. Now, when we come back, we will talk about game 4 and what I think is the Wolves' path to victory. All right, welcome back. So, game 4. This is a pivotal one for the Timberwolves. I think it goes without saying, and I think most people would agree, to really feel like you have a good chance of winning this series, today is a must-have win. I don't really expect a high probability of the Wolves winning 3 games in a row, with 2 of those being in San Antonio. So to avoid that, you got to make the series 2-2. Makes it a best of 3. And while we'll still be pretty significant underdogs at that point, and you still got to win a game in San Antonio, you still got that one home game. So you just got to steal one. Now, what does a win look like for each individual player on the Wolves in game 4? So let's start at the top. Anthony Edwards. It's unfair of us to ask him to do what he did in game 3. But unfortunately, that's pretty much what he has to do. I mean, 41 minutes ideally, I think you'd like to see keep that minute total to 36 to 40 again. But there's a chance that he's going to be 41 to 44. He shot 12 for 26 in game 3, 3 for 9 from 3-point range. So, I mean, I think the easiest thing to ask would be you need Ant to shoot at about a 40 to 45% clip from 3. He put up 14 rebounds. He had 32 points. He did kind of slow down, I'd say, in the fourth quarter. So you'd like a little bit more of a complete game. But again, hard to ask a lot more for Ant at 32 points, maybe a little bit higher percentage from 3. He was 5 of 6 from the line. He was by far our best player in game 3. Julius Randle is next. I mean, we talked about it earlier, his pretty abysmal shooting game in game 3. Julius needs to have like a 28-6 game. He needs to impose his will in the paint. And I know that's hard with Wemby, but we saw him in game 1 box Wemby out. He's powerful enough. He is stronger than Wemby. He might be a foot shorter, but we need him to use his power to find a way to get some rebounds, get into the paint, and he needs to be able to make good decisions in the paint and dish the ball out. I don't care if he's shooting necessarily all the time. And when he gets his open shots, he needs to take them and he needs to make them. And he has if he's, in range. But again, he's just timid to shoot because of the Wemby problem. And then defensively, he needs to get rebounds. He needs to challenge Wemby. And he needs to really get under his center of gravity and make things a little more difficult, specifically when Rudy is not on the court. For Rudy, I mean, he was not great defensively, in my opinion, in game 3. One of his worst performances of the year. Again, this is a tough Rudy series. So when he's on the court, specifically the Cornet minutes, I think he needs to be a force in the glass. He did a pretty good job getting some offensive rebounds. But we need him to get more than 7 rebounds in a game. I get Wemby's taller than him, but he's more powerful again than Wemby. So when they're on the court together, he needs to do better at boxing out, and he needs to clean up better. I mean, his offense has been bad, which isn't to be that unexpected, but you need him to get about 10 points cleaning up the glass, and you need him to have like 12 to 15 rebounds, specifically in the offensive end. Getting second chance, putbacks on Wemby. Again, it's a tough series for Rudy, so I don't know if there's a lot to expect out of Rudy just because I think we're better playing a 5-out offense. Jaden McDaniels, pretty simple for me. He just needs to hit his threes. If he hits his threes, we're in a good spot. I think if he's shooting 40% from 3, he's making 4 to 5 in this game. Sign me up for that. I think we're going to win the game. So we got through those 4. Ayo Dosunmu, I would say he's going to be probably starting in place of Mike Conley today. Ayo, we just need to see what we saw in the second half. We need to see him making good decisions. The first half, he looked a little rusty. He looked timid. He was turning the ball over. He led the team with 4 turnovers. So obviously would like to clean that up. But I think, he's 3 of 8 from 3. Like to see maybe one of those go in, shooting 4 for 8 from 3. He is one of the few guys that can really pull up threes. I would like to see him play right next to Ant, especially when Ant's taking the ball up the court. Ant's going to get rushed a lot. You need Ayo to be that safety valve that Dante was, and where Ant can hit it to him, and he's comfortable taking it, and he's got a quick release. Let him take those, quick catch and shoot threes from the elbow. I mean, he's going to be our second best 3-point shooter, I would say, at this point. So he needs to be that guy that's going to give you that spark and make San Antonio pay for bringing two on the Ant, because you still can't drive the hoop when they do that because Wemby's just looming in the paint. So Io, you just need him to be what he was in second half of game 3 with a little bit more 3-point volume. So then we go to Nas. Honestly, I thought Nas had a really good game. Like I said, it was his best game since the All-Star break. Just need him to do what he did again, and I'll be thrilled with that. And Terrence Shannon Jr. is kind of the last guy that I think is going to be in the rotation in this game. I don't. So what do we need from Terrence? I'm not going to say I want him to be a corner 3-point shooter because that's just not what he is. I think we got to do a good job of spacing his time on the court with Anthony Edwards. I'd like to see Terrence Shannon with the ball in his hands and just better processing when he's driving to the hoop, making a little bit smoother passes to the corner. And I know that's a lot to ask for a guy that's in his second year that wasn't a highly touted draft pick by any means. But just a few bit better decisions, and we need him to maybe make a couple of those threes that he was making near the end of the year, get into a little bit of an offensive heater. Again, if he can get us 15 to 18 points, he's not going to score 30 in this matchup, but 15 to 18, that goes a long way. And then defensively, I thought we've played their guards pretty well. I mean, none of them really had, I thought, particularly amazing games in game 3. Devin Vassell, Steph Castle, Julian Champagny, Keldon Johnson, they were all held in check. They did make a couple of key threes here or there. But again, really, it was just Wemby. So can you hold Wemby to just a normal game and not have him completely blow the game up while holding all those guards to a similar game? De'Aaron Fox, too. Sorry, I forgot him. And I think it's a winnable game. I think the Wolves are going to be the more desperate team. And I think game 4 is a pretty winnable game. Now, through the series, it's going to be tough to win 3 of those games with that formula, with the guys that you have. But it's one game at a time at this point, and I don't want to look too far ahead. But that's where I'm at for game 4. Before we go, it appears that the Thunder are going to sweep the Lakers like I predicted. I had thought the Cavs would beat the Pistons. I'm kind of going back on that. Pistons look revitalized against the Cavs after their big comeback victory against the Magic. And the Knicks are on their way to sweep the 76ers. They've completely outmatched Philadelphia. Again, I thought the Knicks would win. I thought it would be closer to 6. I wouldn't be shocked if they close them out today. So if everything holds, you'd get a Knicks Pistons and a Spurs Thunder. I would say of right now of those series, the Cavs are probably the most likely to come back and win, and then it would be the Wolves, Lakers, and 76ers down 3-0 are pretty much dead in the water. The Lakers definitely are. You're not beating the Thunder 4 games in a row. They're just too good. And I mean, as a basketball fan, Spurs and Thunder would be a fantastic series. As a Wolves fan, that would be pretty devastating. But that's just kind of the landscape right now of the playoffs, and that's where we are. I did want to just shout out the Vikings before we go. I love the signing of Juwan Jennings, and I would like to do a more Viking-centric podcast here once the Wolves season wraps up. Hopefully that's not for a month, but could be the next couple of weeks. Again, I want to thank you for sitting through this podcast with me, learning as we go. I also want to thank you if you subscribe to my Substack, The Nordic Wolf. If you haven't and you are coming across this podcast, I would love for you to subscribe. I will link that onto the YouTube channel. And again, thank you for joining me. And go Wolves.